Math. Yep, good.
No.
99 over 8. I just answered it.
Okay,
The remainder is 36 when divided by, I'm in summer mode. When f of x, see, I'm really in summer mode. When f of x is divided by x minus 2. That would be the actual factor, right? X equals 2 would be the answer. What else can we know from f of 2 equals 3? Yep.
That like 2 must be substituted for every x that would be in the actual equation.
Yep. True. Yeah.
X minus 2 is not a factor of f of x.
Yes, that's another one. X minus 2 is not a factor, but why?
Because the remainder is 36.
Yes. Is not a factor because the remainder is not 0, right? Anything else? Go back to grade 10 before you learned anything from me. What does f of 2 equal 36 mean? Yeah.
The x in my coordinates?
Yes. 236 is a coordinate. On f of x. Explain how you can determine an X-intercept or a root or a zero. I put that in there just because they're interchangeable words of the polynomial above. So let's answer that first. How can you determine an X-intercept? Yeah?
Usually from the linear factor.
From a linear factor, yeah. But what else special about it? Yeah, fine.
Change the y to 0.
Yes. Why does the y have to equal 0? Because that's when it crosses the x-axis. And our y's in this case are our what's? We're linking a whole bunch of things now. A remainder, right? So we want to look for, first thing, when y equals 0, correct? Because that's from grade 10 and 11 math. When y equals 0, we can find our x-intercepts because when it crosses the x-axis, y is 0, right? That's one thing we look for. We can look for the remainder equals 0. The remainder is 0. Why is the remainder 0? Because it's just a coordinate, correct? And the coordinate is x and my y value. My y value is my remainder. My remainder has to be 0 in order for it to be my x-intercept. See the full circle as to why they're saying something is a factor if the remainder is 0, because then it would be an x-intercept. Okay? So explain how you can determine an x-intercept root 0. Would you say y equals 0, remainder is 0? Would that be enough information for the diploma? No, you'd have to explain it. You'd have to say, in order for something to be an x-intercept, my y has to equal 0. I sub in y equals 0 and solve for x. Okay? Or you could say the remainder is 0. If the remainder is 0, I can set my equation equal to 0 because my remainder is just my y value, therefore solving for x. Right? Now it says, what would the factor be? So, what would be the fastest way to find these? Rather than just randomly subbing in things in for x and hoping to get 0 for y, because that sounds terrible. You could graph it. We could factor it, but wait, we don't know how. So that's out. So the only thing we can do is graph today. After today, we can factor, because we'll start talking about that. But normally, we'd be able to set y equal to 0 and factor it if it was a quadratic. We just don't know how to do anything higher than that at this moment in time, at this snapshot, right? So the only way we'd be able to do it is plug it into our calculator. Do you guys remember how to find the x-intercepts with your calculator? No. Okay. Even the few yeses, I'm going to pretend you said no, because it's a life lesson. And I still haven't gotten the new calculator on here. So, can you type that into your y equals, please? Now, in front of the 4, would I say subtraction 4 or would I say negative 4? Negative 4, because subtraction 4 is not stupid. So when you type it into your y equals, make sure you press negative 4, right? You have to type it into your y equals the way you see it. There are two ways you can find your x-intercepts. It depends on what way your teacher probably taught you. But I'll show you both. So you go negative 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus 25x plus 6. Now the first thing I would get you to do is I would get you to go zoom, which is the very middle button at the top, and 6. Zoom 6 sets your window back to the standard negative 10, 10, 10, 10 window. So if you go zoom, the middle top button, and 6, it will always set you back to that negative 10, 10, negative 10, 10 window. Now, is it a good window? No, it's kind of crappy, right? So it looks like another way you could find out whether what you should make your, so people are like, I'm going to make it, and then they randomly guess. Or they go negative 100 to 100. Or they go get aggressive, and they're like, well, I think negative 10,000 to 10. Stop. So go second, graph. Go second, graph. And it gives you coordinates on your graph, doesn't it? Do you see them? Do you see coordinates there?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of them? What are some of them? Believe in yourself. You can do it. What's one of them?
0 and 6.
Anyone else? Yeah?
Negative 2 and 0.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm just asking for more. Believe in yourself. That's probably going to be my common theme this year. I feel it every day. Okay? There's a whole bunch in there, correct? You can go up, you can go down, you can find like a high one, you can find a low one, you can kind of make a window that might fit it, okay? So go try and do that. So you're going to go to your window and you're going to make your lowest X and your highest X.
Oh, the second one, no?
So the only thing I can't really see are my maximums and my minimums, correct? Can I see all my X-Intercepts? Would my window be good enough actually to probably find my X-Intercepts? Yes. If you want your window to be a little more accurate, you could go to your window and you can make your Y minimum maybe be negative 20. So I go to my Y minimum because I want to make it lower because I can't see the bottom. And then I go to my Y maximum and I make it positive 20. And the only thing I still can't see is my max. So I'm going to go to my window and I'm going to make my Y max maybe 40. There, now I can see it. So you can reduce your mins and your maxes so you can see the whole thing, right? Now if you're like me, your Y axis is a solid black line. Because I didn't change my Y scale. So if you go to your window, your Y scale just means what you make your ticks be. So you know when you used to make bar graphs in little years, you'd make them each worth 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 so you can see your ticks. So if our little window right now, because I made my Y min be negative 20 and my Y max be 40, currently right now I have 6, and then my Y scale is 1. So I have a tick for every 1. So now in this little teeny tiny window, I have 60 ticks. Well, that looks like a solid black line, right? Because I can't see the ticks. So if you want to be able to see the ticks, maybe make your Y scale be 5. And then I can see the ticks. Right? Does that make sense? You're starting to remember your calculator? It's a great thing. It's expensive. Use it. Okay? Do you have all that? So, to get your X-intercepts, you can do, and this is often the way it's taught, is you have it looking like something like this, let's say. Okay? So, we want to calculate something. Whenever we want to calculate something, we have to use the calculate button, and the calculate button is behind the trace button. We agree? So if we go second, trace, which one of these words means X-intercept? 0. Number 2. Now what does it say there on your screen at the bottom? It says left bound. So we're going to find this one first. So what part of the graph is on the left side of that X-intercept? You come to what? I thought you said you come in peace.
Hi, Matt.
Why do you need tape? You're at the tube. You're at me too. You're ripping paper.
I just
Aggressive.
flipped it. Flipped it.
So which part, above or below, is left?
Wow.
You're right. You just randomly guessed. Okay, this is the left, this is the right for this X-intercept. Do you agree? So go somewhere on the left of it, arrow over, and hit enter. Then it says what? Right bound. So you have to go somewhere below it. So down here, enter, and then enter. And what do you get? Negative 2 and 0. which you could have got these off your table of values. The only ones you can't get off your table of values are decimals, correct? But that's fine. So we have negative 2, 0 as one of them. Let's find the next one. So I want to find this one. So I have to redo it. Second trace. And which one am I finding? The 0, the x-intercept, number 2, correct? And now I need to be on the left side of it. Well, this is now on the left side of that x-intercept, and this is on the right. So you need to go just over on the left of it, enter. Then it says right bounce on the right of it, enter, and then enter. And what do you get? Negative 0.25. Do you want to find something cool? I hope everyone found this, because you're not going to get to learn the cool thing if you didn't. So most of you know that 0.25 is a quarter, but let's pretend you don't. Okay, let's pretend that fell out of your head. So what you can do now is you can go second mode and get out of that screen, right? Now currently the x I just found is negative 0.25. We agree? So you can press the xt theta n button, the one beside alpha, and then go math enter enter, and it'll turn whatever x you just found into a fraction. So you press the X button, and then math, enter, enter. Now if you find a new X, that's going to be what the new X means, right? Every single time you find a new X, that's what it's holding that X variable as. Does that make sense? So it's at negative 1/4 and 0, which is going to be helpful to us for factors, because you can't use 0.25 for a factor. Okay? Now we're going to find the third one. I really need to get my emulator working. This is hard to like this. This is going to be on the left. This is going to be on the right. So second trace to left bound. I have to talk to someone about getting my emulator off my other computer onto this one. Okay, another explanation. So I see on my calculator it says 3, and then y is at negative 5 e to the negative 12. What the heck does that mean? Yeah. It's a really small decimal. It means 0 decimal, like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, I've lost count, 0, 0, 0, and 5. What can we round that to? 0. So whenever you see e to the negative anything, that's just 0. That's real, like it's 0 decimal, a buttload of zeros, and that is in the dictionary, buttload, it's real. 0 decimal, a whole lot of zeros, and then 5, which we round to 0, okay? So some people will tell me it's 3 and negative 5 and completely ignore the e to the negative 12, but that's just a fancy 0, okay? So my other one's at negative 3 and 0. Now I wanted what the factor would be, right? Yeah. That's what I have. I have no idea what you're talking about. Clearly, that was a positive. Clearly, we can go back on this recording and see that I said negative, but that's fine. All right. Those are my x-intercepts. We agree? But I want my factors. So this one would be at x equals negative 2. I'll do it in blue because it's in blue. What would it be as a factor? X plus 2, because what you're actually doing is you're getting it back equal to 0, correct? So I'm adding a 2 and adding a 2, and your brain just knows to do this, so you don't even show it. X plus 2 equals 0. So my factor would be x plus 2. And how do I know it's a factor? Because it equals 0, right? Which means the remainder would be 0, which means my y would be 0, which means it would be an x-intercept, therefore it's a factor. Now, let's do the black one next. Okay, it's a whole number as well. So x equals 3. So I subtract 3, and I get x minus 3 equals 0. Not too bad. The fractions ones get done terribly. So we're not going to do it terribly. We're going to do it great. X equals negative 1/4. Most people will say x plus 1/4. Not wrong, won't be there. That answer won't be there. Because whatever, I don't care. We have 4x minus 1 here. That became x equals 1/4, correct? Because what did we do? We added 1, we divided by 4. So we did 2 steps to get that, correct? So to go back, we have to do 2 steps to go back as well. This isn't time consuming it. Oh, whatever. I just wanted off my thing. Okay. So we have this one. x equals negative a quarter, what are we going to have to do first? Multiply by 4. So we actually do 2 steps. And you guys understand it, you just forget it. When it comes to the question, you'll just immediately add the quarter over. Stop the madness. Don't do that, okay? Stop yourself. So we have 4x equals negative 1, and then we add the 1 over, so we get 4x plus 1 equals 0. So this is one factor, and this is one linear factor, and this is a linear factor. You guys are right. Okay. Number 2 says, given p of x equals 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus kx plus 5 is divided by x minus 2. So I'm going to go like this. What's that? So I see that. I go x minus 2 equals 0. X equals 2. The remainder is 7, so I know y equals 7. Determine the value of k, so I'm looking for k. And this is p of x. So I'm going to do p of 2 equals 7. Because I know my x and my y. And I know that this actually, when I have x equals 2 and y equals 7, I know that's actually a coordinate. 2, 7 is actually on this polynomial, right? It's just a coordinate. So I know it's not an x-intercept. I know that x minus 2 isn't a factor because the remainder is 7. Sometimes I won't give you the remainder. And you'll bring me over and you'll fight me. And you'll be like, Lepp, you did not give us enough information. You get really angry at me on the test. Like, you're like, not enough. And I'm like, but there is. And you're like, not enough. And I'm like, but we just get back, and I just have to walk away. Because what happens sometimes is I can just say x minus 2 is a factor. If I say x minus 2 is a factor screams what? The remainder is 0. So whenever I see is a factor, I just underline it, I circle it, I write remainder is 0, and I give you enough information, but you'll fight me. Don't fight me. I'll lose. Okay. So if I don't give you the remainder, think there's something else to this. There's something else. She said there's something else. So I probably will say is a factor, indirectly telling you the remainder is 0. Okay? That's the trickery. All right. So we're going to go 7 equals 2 times 2 cubed plus 3 times 2 squared minus k times 2 plus 5. And so I get 7 equals 8 times 2, which is 16, plus 4 times 3, which is 12, minus 2k plus 5. And so I get 7 equals 2833 minus 2k, subtract 33. What do we get?
Negative 26.
What does k equal?
13.
It's hurt me to actually make this question, but I didn't want to change it because it worked out evenly. But I don't like answers with 13. It's just weird. I'm weird. It's fine. I've come to be okay with that. Now, how can we check this? You should have walked away from this question all green, or just red because you had no clue. But one or the other. There shouldn't have been a yellow. Well, it could have been. But now you should walk away from this knowing you got it 100% correct and not be like, I wonder if 13's right. Or when I get you an answer of 25 over 2 and you're like, oh no, it must be bad. You know? Check it. Yeah, what do we do?
Substitute, I'm pretty sure the 13 back into the k.
Believe in yourself. You said with a pretty sure. You are sure.
So you like put the 13 back as a k.
Yeah.
Keep all the x's like fit into your y equals graph it, and then look for the coordinate 2, 7.
Yes, we can do that. We can put the 13 in for the k. We can put it into our y equals, go to our table of values, look for 2, 7. Or we could go second trace value, put in the 2, get out a 7, right? Input for output. Or another way we could do it, if we wanted to do the algebra of it, is we could put 13 in for k. We could put 2 in for the x's and see if we get 7, right? All the same thing gets me answers. Good? Everyone did great. Yes, all we did. Okay, I'm going to get you guys to open your notes up. The sighing. We are here. So, number 6, it says find the remainder when 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 7x minus 3 is divided by 2x plus 5. What are we going to have to do? Find what x is first. And some people say find the x-intercept. I don't know. Unless the remainder is 0, that's not an x-intercept, correct? So we're just literally just solving for x. So, come on, a smaller marker. 2x plus 5 equals 0. 2x equals negative 5. If you want to use function notation and I didn't make it a function, you'd have to let it be a function, right? Like let p of x or f of x or g of x equal that function. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to do p of -5/2 because I stated it as a p. -5/2 cubed. What do you get? Anyone have it? Is it 2? -2? Yeah, it should be negative. Oh, yeah, it's positive. Because this is -125 minus 12. It's going to be smaller than -145. So it'll be positive 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Okay, number 7. Once again, we're digging deep into grade 10. Every day, just so you know, we'll be digging deep into grade 10. Grade 10 is extremely important in grade 12. It should come with a memo. Like in grade 10, you should be like, this will be used in grade 12 a lot. This will be used in grade 12 a lot. Okay. Which happened to be, for some of you, a little distance learning. But that's fine. It will come back quickly. All right. So, when p of x equals 3x cubed plus mx squared plus nx minus 7, what's the problem for this one compared to the previous ones? There are 2 variables. When there's 1, you can just use remainder theorem, plug it in, life is good, a little bit of algebra. When there's 2, we're going to actually have to use elimination from grade 10, where you eliminate some variables. So, it says, if it is divided by x minus 2, the remainder is -3. So that, to me, states that p of 2, and I can say p because it's stated as a p, right? P of 2 equals -3. It is also known that p of -1 equals -18. So indirectly, when divided by x plus 1, my remainder is -18. That's another way they could have said that one, correct? So now, if I have 2 variables, I need to have 2 statements. Before I had 1 variable, I had to give you 1 factor and 1 remainder, right? Now, if I give you 2 variables, you need 2. So we're going to write them out in a little orderly fashion. So, little statement. So sometimes the equation in the question is on the very far left of the, or very far right, let's say, my left to right. Very far right. It starts over here, right? And you have a habit of working right from the equation in the question. You feel like you must. So you start working down here, down the right-hand side. Then you run out of room. Then you maybe go to the middle. Then you go to the, and I'm trying to figure out what you're doing. Okay? It's chaos is what it is. So please don't work from the question. Like if you see an equation in the question and you want to work from it, just rewrite it. People will be like, if it's in the middle, they're like, you didn't give me enough room. I did. You started in a weird spot. Stop the madness. Okay? You're like, never would happen. It happens all the time. So we're going to start on the far left. We're going to be sequential. So we're going to go p of 2 equals -3. We're going to put 1. And then we're going to go p of -1 equals -18. Okay? And a little line in between. So what does this mean? This is function notation. Function notation just says I can fill x in for 2 and I can set it equal to -3 and I have some 2 variables and that's not fun, but whatever. That's what it is. Okay? So our first 2 steps are going to be plug in x and y, right? Plug in x and y. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go -3 equals 3 times 2 cubed plus m times 2 squared plus n times 2 minus 7. Now we just have to do some math. Now the hint is in grade 10, they were always just x's and y's. This happens to be m and n's. They could be whatever variables they want them to be, right? My goal always is get m and n on one side and all the numbers, the rest of them all together on the other. So I'm going to get negative 3 equals 8 times 3, which is 24, plus 4m plus 2n minus 7. Then I just collect like terms. So I'm going to move this 24 over, and I'm going to move the negative 7 over, right? Subtract the 24, add the 7. So negative 24 minus 3 is negative 27, plus 7 is negative 20. And then I give it a little number 1, because that's my first equation. I'm going to need to go get back. So was that anything crazy that I just did? No. We're going to do the same thing for the next one. So now we're going to go negative 18 equals 3, negative 1 cubed, plus m times negative 1 squared, plus n times negative 1, minus 7. Negative 1 cubed is negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 squared is positive 1m, minus 1n, minus 7. If you didn't put the 1s, you're totally fine. I'm going to add 3 and I'm going to add 7. Negative, or 7 plus 3 is 10, minus 18 is negative 8. Nothing new to this point, right? Other than learning you need to put the numbers to one side. True? Nothing crazy. Now we go to grade 10. We go to elimination. And in grade 10, it seemed harder, but trust me, your brains have grown. And you'll be like, why was that hard? There's so many things in grade 10, like reducing a radical, that was hard. And then you're like, what? Why? Once you hit grade 12. Because your brains get more larger. They get more larger, you know? All that English that I'm speaking. Okay, so in order for them to get more larger, we learned that we have to do elimination, which means we just stack equations. So I'm going to take number 1. I'm going to go negative 20 equals 4m plus 2n. And I'm going to go negative 8 equals 1m minus 1n. And I want to add these two equations, and I want a variable to go away. Currently, if I add them, I get negative 28 plus 5m plus n, and I still have everything, and it's no better. Not helpful, right? But I want one of them to go away. So I know that I could multiply this one by negative 4, and then 4m minus 4m will 0, go away, right? Or I could multiply this one by 2, and 2 minus 2n would go away, right? Which one's better? It depends on what you like. It doesn't really matter, okay? The catch, though, is that you can't just multiply one of the things by it, one of the terms. You have to multiply the whole thing by it, right? So I'm going to pick the 2 because I like not multiplying by negative. But you could multiply by negative 4. You just have to do every term by it, correct? So I'm going to multiply this one by 2 because that would give me negative 2n and that would cancel. That means I'm going to have to multiply this one by 2 and I'm going to have to multiply this one by 2. So I'm going to get negative 20 equals 4m plus 2n. I haven't done anything to that equation and I don't need to. Adding it to negative 16 equals 2m minus 2n. Now you know you made a mistake if when you add these up, one of them still doesn't go away. Go back, try again, right? Something went wrong. So when I add these up, I'm going to get negative 36 equals 6m, and these go away. We agree? They're gone. Divide by 6, and m equals negative 6. So I have m. I need m and? Does anyone remember how you got n from grade 10? Yeah. You can substitute it into either 1 or 2. That's why I circled them. So it draws my eye back to being like, people can usually get to here and then they're like, oh, now, what do? It should draw your eye back to 1 and 2 because you have them circled, right? You labeled those babies. So I'm going to pick 2 because it looks easier. You could pick 1 for a challenge. Up to you. Both will get you the exact same n. Okay? So I'm going to go -8 equals m minus n. -8 equals -6 minus n. Add n. What am I doing? Help me! Oh goodness, thank you for arrow. No! No thank you for arrow. Add 6. Let's try this again. I really wanted a positive n, it seems. -2 equals -n, so n equals 2. Now, when we knew what k was, we could plug it back in, right? We could look for the variable and blah, 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 and we could look for the point and see if it matched. We agree? Can we not do the same here? Yeah, you just have 2 things to fill in. So go to your calculator. -6 and 2. No! Why does it keep moving on me? Put in -6 and 2 for your n and your n. That's covered up with blue. Type it in and you're going to look for the coordinates what? 2 and -3. And you're going to look for -1 and -18. Both should appear. Yeah?
Instead of like doing the elimination thing, can you just set number 2 to m and then sub it into
Do substitution? Yeah. Because m and n are 1s. But when m and n aren't 1s, it makes it more complicated to do substitution because you get fractions. But yeah, totally fine. So when you type that in, type it into your y equals 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 2x minus 7. And you should look for 2 and -3, -1 and -18. And you should walk away knowing you're right or not. Do we agree? And remember, instead of going to your table of values, you could just go second trace value, put in 2, you should get -3. Second trace value, put in -1, you should get -18. That's another way to do it too. If it's not a whole value, if it's not a whole number or an integer. Dun, dun, dun. Homework.
Yay.
Yay. You actually have a bit of time. You should try it. Yeah. You got 20 minutes. That's a good gift.
completion thing?
It's going to be handed in Friday.